Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Cinema Savvy. It is myself, George, joined once more by Tate, and bringing back to the channel Aaron and Sam for another spoiler discussion for Doctor Who, celebrating the 60th anniversary, the third special, The Giggle, which of course is now released. It's so weird to say this, in the BBC in England and Disney Plus everywhere else. We're going to be going through all the major moments as we always do. Tate is in Austria. We are lovely to have him back on to finish the specials. But first of all, before we get into anything else, how are we all doing tonight?
Yeah, good. I might be a little bit out of sync. I don't know how far out of sync I may be. But yeah, good to be back. And hopefully, even if it isn't this stream, next stream, I will be on slightly better Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm happy these specials are out of the way because of the anxiety of seeing David Tennant regenerate again. But I'm good. I'm good.
Ditto. I'm very happy to be back and to end, I'd say, on a high after these three specials. So yeah, happy to talk about it.
Lovely. And this is what we're kind of going to do. So, as always, this is a spoiler discussion. The episode is up. Confidential is up. I know a couple of you would have watched that. I haven't, so I'm going into that part blind. We've got lots to talk about. We've got to talk about the Spice Girls. We've got to talk about Neil Patrick Harris and so many other things. But as always, we do want to hear from everybody at home. So please do comment your thoughts, not just on the Giggle, your thoughts on these three specials, your thoughts on the series moving forward. And of course, the very, very big moment, the bi-generation, which is going to be a talk. I've not been on Twitter. I watched this episode late because I was behind with the football. I've not really scoured online. I heard murmurs about the leaks being true a couple of days ago. People were umming and ahhing. I stayed away from those. So I've got some thoughts. I think it's going to be something that goes on differently with every single person, but we do want to hear from people watching. So as I said, get involved, and Doctor Who will be returning. There is, of course, a Christmas Day special. We have a time now confirmed for the BBC. We'll be doing a video, not on Christmas Day, but at some point around that time, because we've all got lives to an extent. I do. That's self-depreciating humor. But as always, also, you want to go get us on social media, go find us at linktree.com/cinemasavvy. You can get us on Facebook, Letterboxd, Twitter, Instagram, link to the Redbubble store, all that sort of stuff on there. It's the best place to find about other videos, stuff we're teasing, stuff we're working on, announcements, all that sort of stuff is the best way to do it. We've already got Sarah in the comments from Popcorn Chat who joined us for our Disney special, and I didn't butcher the channel name this time. Apologies again. But the best way to start, without being rude and skipping Tate, Aaron and Sam, I just want to get your very brief thoughts on the two specials so far. Sam, I know you were with us on the New Who revival era, sorry, is the name for it, discussion on the anniversary. But both of your thoughts just on the first two heading into today.
Right, so my thoughts, I like the Star Beast. I think it's grown on me a little bit more since it first aired. But yeah, I like it. I think some of it was a bit heavy-handed, but I'm getting used to that, and it's the way Russell T Davies writes anyway. So, and I really liked last week's purely because of it. It was a simple concept, but they went for it in certain aspects, and I like that because I just love it when Doctor Who just goes for it with its sci-fi stuff. And yeah, this one I won't say too much because we'll discuss it fully throughout the stream. But I love this one. This is probably my favorite of the three specials. I just loved every second of it.
Excellent, Sam.
Yeah, I'm in a similar kind of position. Really, I've watched the previous two episodes only once, so I don't have any like alternative feelings about them compared to when I first saw them too much yet. But I enjoyed them both. Definitely think we've gone in like an upwards trajectory with the specials for me. Maybe because I like that the last episode was mostly just David Tennant and Catherine Tate. There wasn't really anyone else in it. So it was really like just two characters, well, four really. But yeah, really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed the Star Beast too. And yeah, I do think this one, although I do think as a kind of finale to these specials, I do think maybe there could have been a bit more, or some things could have been changed. I think the overall story itself was a solid story. and I think it was really enjoyable from start to finish. And I think that's the main takeaway for me from this, rather than putting too much high expectations on it of being an anniversary episode or anything like that.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm glad I've got both of them. And that's going to kind of be a big thing talking. I mean, I know last week, really quickly, I really enjoyed the first episode. It was almost like not back to basics, but like felt like a very traditional like episode from who I watched when I was younger. Last week, I was split on. I think I ended the video saying I wasn't a fan. I've thought about it a lot more. I've not rewatched it. There are still bits I really like from it. And there are still bits I didn't. And obviously, it's only been a week. That's nothing irrespective of a 60-year TV series as history. But I think maybe time will not just benefit that, but I still think last week would have been like an amazing episode within an individual season rather than 3 anniversary specials. And kind of with tonight, if I lean into my initial thoughts, we'll sort of go around. I loved the episode today. I thought, again, I will call myself an outsider with the Who discussion, although I have a history to a point with Doctor Who. I really enjoyed this episode. I think it had quite comfortably the best villain. I liked the stuff with the Doctor. I liked that we got Ncuti in there, which we knew we were going to get. I really enjoyed a lot of the episodes. There's a big thing I have actually an issue with, which I think is going to be a contentious point for probably any discussion ever about Doctor Who for the next 60 years or however long it will go on for. But aside from that, I think it was my favourite of the 3 by quite a distance, and I think it's very optimistic for me, like moving forward with Russell T Davies as the showrunner, that I will obviously be watching these episodes, and it kind of makes me excited. Obviously, we've got the Christmas special literally in 16 days now, which is ridiculous. We're already at the end of December. But before we sort of go into it, Tate, if you can hear us good, thoughts on today briefly, and did your thoughts change on last week? I know you liked it more than me, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, last week. The good thing about the episode from last week is that it has that rewatchability factor. It feels like out of the 3 special episodes, it's the one that I'll probably go back to and watch again the most. It doesn't take away from the fact that I love this episode, because I did absolutely love this episode, but I feel like Wild Blue Yonder has more to explore and more to kind of delve into and more to kind of look at. This was an episode that was very busy and had a lot going on. And like you said, Neil Patrick Harris absolutely steals the show in this episode and is fantastic in this role. But yeah, I feel like between the 3 specials overall, I would probably go back to Wild Blue Yonder the most and kind of delve more into that. Just because it feels like a bottle episode. It feels like a really important episode as far as, the Doctor's kind of, own psyche, and it sets you up for kind of how they end things with this episode and how this episode even comes about. I mean, this episode came about because he cast salt at the end of the universe. So, the fact that we get that as kind of a carry on from the previous episode is brilliant in the first place. But at least my initial thoughts, loved it. Really, really enjoyed this episode and really enjoyed the 3 specials overall. Best Doctor Who we've had in years.
Aaron, thoughts on today briefly? I know we're going to get into it properly. We've got a schedule. We're going to go into the big moments. But yes, right, Aaron and Sam, just your initial thoughts on this one today as well. Sorry, I should have said this to begin with.
I loved this episode. It's weird. I always try and pinpoint what exactly my favorite aspect of Doctor Who as a whole is. And sometimes I like the high concept sci-fi stuff like we got last week. And then other times I just love it when it goes for it, just in terms of spectacle and stakes. And that's what we got today. And that I feel like that's something that Russell T Davies is a master at, especially compared to like the previous 2 showrunners. He just understands how to like build up stakes, especially for like a series finale. And like I said at the start, I loved every second of this. I think I loved Neil Patrick Harris. I loved the fact that it was kind of relentless as well, especially in terms of its pacing. Like, it was just relentless from the moment it started. And then the more it kept going, the more crazier things got. And I just loved every second of it. I feel similar to what Tate said about last week's episode. I feel like I'm going to want to revisit this one a lot more, because there's small details that I feel like I missed on this first viewing that I can go back and watch. But at the same time, I just want to be wrapped up in how much fun the episode was as well again, because I just had a massive smile on my face the whole time. And I just want that to stay again.
Yeah, I do feel the same. Definitely my favorite of the 3 specials. I mean, as anyone will know if you've seen the revival episode that we did, like I do love the classic series, and so all the references that were brought in, and obviously with the inclusion of the toy maker and with Mel, really kind of built that up, as well as everything else that was mentioned within the episode. And I loved like the callbacks to, you know, this current era, or at least the past, 18 years of Who as well. I think what I appreciate about Russell T Davies now is that it really feels like, unlike his first go around, where it really felt like, right, I need to bring the show back and I need to make it its own for a new era. Now it feels like he's really embracing every element of Who. You know, we've gone from the first story, The Star Beast, which was based off a comic from the 70s with the 4th Doctor, now being made into a TV serial, to having this real classic villain from 57 years ago, to having a companion from the 80s, to having, current units. Everything is together as one. And for me, that's how like I want to see Who as this collective show that's gone on for so long and has got so much story left to tell. And, the ending is a really hopeful ending, a really nice ending. And I'm glad that we got something like that and not something that was overly emotional or anything, because I think we have had a lot of that, and it's good to just go, do you know what, right, we're in a certain direction now, let's just go for it.
Interesting. And I think that's what's really interesting with this as well, that it has brought those different reactions, and everyone, I think the thing with Doctor Who, and this is really, because I've not watched classic Who, I've not watched most of New Who, it's like weird, but it's probably one of the most varied shows in this trilogy of specials, which is celebrating its 60th anniversary. To have 3 completely different episodes, I think, is actually a very fair reflection of what Doctor Who's done across the decades. I just want to bring some other comments by other people. Sarah says she agrees with Tate. The second episode has more rewatchability, captures a well-written Russell T Davies episode compared to the others. Aren's greatest play by since have a poorness play, but never mind, he failed to see Doctor Who. There's so much to talk about with Neil Patrick Harris. I think I said last week, I was looking forward to him the most of anything, and I think it's one of potentially the best casting decisions I've seen from Doctor Who, and I'm absolutely going to be talking about in a lot more detail. But one thing I'm going to hand over is Tate to talk about. So if we talk about the plot of today's episode, Tate, where do you want to begin? I'm leaving this bit for you, because once we get to Unit, I don't have a clue what that is.
Okay, so the invention of TV, Stucky Bill, and that weird puppet. If you watch the Doctor Who Unleashed, Russell T goes through kind of how the process of the episode came about. It wasn't originally a toy maker episode. It originally started as a invention of TV episode, and going, hey, that doll looks creepy, let's make it into a Doctor Who monster. And that's kind of where this story started. And then from there, he was able to build up kind of the idea of, well, if there's a puppet, you need to have a puppet master. And that's where, the toy maker came in. So at least for the plot of it, the toy maker has Stokey Bill kind of put on the television, and suddenly that has been ingrained into screens across, the next century, so people being fed that information, people being fed that laugh underneath the screen, which turns people mad. Doctor comes into the situation at the start of the episode, from the previous episode, from the end of Wobbly Yonder, and then he has to try and find not only the source of the toy of the puppet, but also kind of take on the toy maker and go through all of the emotions that come with that. In this story, we get a lot going on. So we get the TARDIS time traveling, we get him going and visiting Unit, we have the characters reintroduced from the first episode of our, I guess, new Unit team, which hopefully they still use going forwards, because it'd be a shame if they kind of abandoned it. I know that this is going to be a new era of Doctor Who. I know that there's, well, from the previous era, there's a little bit of crossover, but not much crossover between the eras and stuff like that. But I would love to see this Unit team being used again. I've come to love the characters they've introduced, so that'd be really nice moving forwards. But I guess the meat of the episode and the main part of the episode, and in my honest opinion, the best parts of the episode come from dealing with Toymaker, dealing with his realm, all the different surprises that are there inside, and the different games that they play throughout the entire episode, as a callback to the original Celestial Toymaker storyline. But yeah, the episode is wild and kooky, and kind of like I said, it's a very busy episode. There's a lot going on. To summarize it would, send a person mad. But yeah, general beats of the episode are taking over the TVs, finding out it's the toy maker, trying to defeat the toy maker by generation, and then kind of, parting of ways at the end. That's it.
Right. I'm just trying
to.
Yeah, I mean, so Doctor Who's not my thing, is it? But right, let's talk then. If we're going to go through that, do people want to talk about the toy maker first? Is this going to be the big discussion for tonight? I feel like it might be.
Yes.
Okay. I think this is quite comfortably. I say short-term memory. I watched it literally less than 45 minutes ago. I think Neil Patrick Harris has instantly made like not an iconic Doctor Who like role, but this, I know he can't really come back. Maybe he will. Who knows? But sorry, there's sirens outside, which is odd. I feel like it's one of them where I've been waiting for this episode since the posters came out, and it's no disrespect. You always know the regeneration's going to be the last one. It was not going to be episode 1. It was not going to be episode 2. It was going to be episode 3. We knew the Christmas special was going to be Ncuti, and you bring in Neil Patrick Harris to play a villain. Now, I don't know the history of the Toymaker. I know they put a couple of frames in from it on the original run. I believe the Toymaker's under the Lost episodes, and did they just announce that they're going to be doing it animated, like a couple of the other ones?
They have animated it, yeah.
That's very cool that they've, again, tied it with this. And I think if you're going back through 60 years of history, it's, I think, quite remarkable that the villain isn't a Dalek, it isn't a Cyberman, it isn't another Doctor. It is, let's just go back and take, I don't want to try and compare it to Star Wars, but it's like, when you see these franchises where they take maybe a minor villain from the past and then they put it in the modern day and it's instantly going to become something more iconic. The fact the Master's referencing this, which is going to be clearly a big thing moving forward. I think every single scene he's in, he steals. Whether it's his German accent from the beginning, whether it's the dancing in the street. I know a lot of these photos leaked. I know there's been a lot of set photos with these specials. Great thing about shooting on location is the fact that you can see the budget, you can see it's on location. But obviously stuff like that does pop up. I know Ryan Reynolds has been talking about Deadpool a lot on Twitter. But I was really invested in this as a villain, and I'm not quite sure I'm going this because it's just hard not to keep saying how much I love Neil Patrick Harris in this, but I genuinely think if this is a one-episode villain, because one of my criticisms, and it's a very unfair criticism because this is more like what the mind's thinking, you would assume on paper that the Toymaker was responsible for to being the villain across a 3-episode structure, which he sort of isn't. He's the villain for today. Yes, something in the past might have led to him being there today, but I love the idea that it was a 1-episode villain. And if moving forwards, I'm not saying just cast A-listers. Doctor Who's obviously very great with the respect to bringing through young British actors, the likes of what Daniel Kaluuya was on Doctor Who. There's been it's basically a band of brothers at this point. You can look back at the last 20 years, you see a lot of very, very successful actors now who appear on 1 episode or 2. I think this episode and this character has shown the potential in bringing on board, I don't want to say a big name, I'm trying to think of the right words, like going beyond the British Academy of Acting, if that makes sense. Like, you can go out and get a Hollywood actor if they can play the role. And I think this is whether this was written before they cast Neil Patrick Harris, it feels like the episode was made for Neil Patrick Harris to come on board. And I think if you're going to have that moving forward with any actor, if you want them in Doctor Who, go do it. And I think Russell T Davies has the credibility, the ability to make actors want to be in Doctor Who. Whereas before, I don't think, I know this is disrespectful because we have had big names in Doctor Who before, but I don't think Doctor Who's ever had that, I don't want to call it like a Mandalorian buzz, but you know how like Mandalorian, like an actor just pops up randomly. And it's like, oh, that A-lister's in Star Wars for a day. Okay, cool. I think Doctor Who's never had that and they easily can. Whether someone's insulted or fuming or thinks I'm missing the point, I don't think I am. I just feel that the Neil Patrick Harris thing is one of the best things I've seen in a long time in Doctor Who. Sorry, I've not really made a point. I'm just waffling.
So I implore everyone to go and watch the Doctor Who Unleashed because all of them have been fantastic about kind of breaking down the episode, kind of looking at the peek behind the curtain and behind the scenes for how it's being made and put together. But one of the things they mentioned was they wrote the role, but not for Neil Patrick Harris. But then as soon as kind of they finished writing it, one of the producers kind of pointed out, hey, Neil Patrick Harris would be perfect for this role. And they were like, oh, yeah, of course. Why didn't we think of him? So it was written first and then it was kind of filled by him. But he did such a fantastic job of it. He has played so many kind of roles in his career that have, you know, could be career-defining roles, and you could keep on talking about and keep on talking about them. But this is absolutely amazing. The role that he played in this was absolutely amazing. He brings such energy to it and gravitas, and his ability to kind of flick between different accents and everything like that. They mention it in the confidential as well with the roots of the character, and they did talk about kind of how the previous iteration of the character may have been construed as racist back in the day, and how they wanted to kind of keep some element of him being evil without, you know, like real world evil, which is why he had the accents in this episode, which I quite liked as a touch. It's really interesting to say that. But I think it's very good to continue that forwards and kind of have that as a character trait, so that it kind of explains away kind of the kind of image at the time of the toy maker. But the fact that they've changed the name from the Celestial Toy Maker to the Toy Maker now, it definitely shows that, you know, they are at least with the times, and they've made an effort for that. But from Neil Patrick Harris's side, yeah, absolutely amazing. Every single moment in this episode, he steals the screen, and, you know, from anything from his realm and him kind of talking about the past companions and how they died, and the Doctor having to try and explain it, to Spice Up Your Life, which may go down as one of the most just bonkers Doctor Who segments. I mean, I thought it was bonkers last year with what's it called, Rasputin with the Master, but this tops it. This is incredible.
Yeah, I'm pretty much just going to echo everything that you guys have said. I loved his performance, and like Tate said, the whole, because like Tate, I watched the Doctor Who Unleashed episode before coming on here, and I knew of the Toy Maker a little bit because it's one of those lost episodes and it's got a bit of history to it, but I had no idea about the racist connotations and all that. But hearing Russell T Davies talk about that and how he tried to like avoid it but also kind of bleed into it with this character, I think they did the best job they possibly could have done in terms of how it's written. And I think Neil Patrick Harris absolutely stole the show. The Spice Girls bit is going to be ingrained in my head forever. I'm always a bit weary when Doctor Who uses like modern music, because like I know when Russell T Davies was the previous showrunner, it was a bit hit and miss. But with Rasputin last year and Spice Girls this year, I think they're finally using them in really fun and entertaining ways. And I love that whole sequence as well, because it's a fun sequence, but it showcases what he can do as well. He can manipulate reality. No one quite knows how to tackle him, and when like Kate gets the soldiers to go like after him and they just fall into balloons, just things like that, I was like, oh, okay, I'm loving every minute of this. The whole accents thing, I didn't know what he was going for to begin with, and then I realized it was intentional, because when he started with the German accent, I was expecting him to just say "Do you wear wigs?" but I didn't get that. But yeah, I absolutely loved his performance, and I think the Toy Maker is just such a fascinating singular villain anyway, that again, like what you said, George, I'm glad he's just here for the one-off episode, because I feel like if we got him too much, it would kind of ruin the mystique of the character. But I'm glad we got him here, and I loved everything they did with him.
Yeah, the Toy Maker is interesting in the fact that, well, he was on screen once, and Michael Gough played him, who I think I always recognize Michael Gough as being Alfred in the Batman films in the 80s and 90s. So, and he was actually in 80s Doctor Who as well as a different character, which is really weird. But I've seen the Surviving episode of that original story, and he does a great performance, and the character is a really interesting one in the fact that he has his own world, and all these kind of childhood toys come to life, and it's very creepy and eerie. But you know, there's this, people die in it, people can die in it. So the fact that it's been so long since then, and there's this whole mystique built up, I think it was definitely a right time to bring that character back and do something new in it. And I think bringing the Toy Maker out of his world into the real world and manipulate that is the, I guess, most you know, the thing that sticks out to me the most about his character and what he can do, the fact that he had this plan set in motion, waited around for it to happen. He does love, just, what is it, using the strings, whatever, like, and just, making mayhem happen. And it's all for his enjoyment, all for his pleasure. And the Doctor gives him the offer to take his games out to the stars, and he's like, no, I like it here, so I'm going to do it. So yeah, and Neil Patrick Harris is so theatrical as an actor, and has played iconic roles his entire life. I think he was Doogie Howser like as a kid, and gone all the way through. I mean, Barney Stinson will always be like the character that I see him as, but even as they said in Unleashed as well, he was Hedwig in the Angry Inch, and that's a very, very theatrical play. So it's it was really great to get him on board to do it. The fact that he read the script and was like, I want to do this, just shows what a well-written character the Toymaker is. And the fact that, there is a window for him to come back in the future for sure. I'm sure if there's a possibility, if there's a way, then absolutely do it. Definitely sparingly. Although I wouldn't want to wait another 57 years for his next appearance. But yeah, and also spice up your life. I mean, I have the Spice World album. I would have just put it right here. I messaged George that I jumped up off the couch and went, yes, when it came on, because I was like, I knew it was going to be another Rasputin thing, but it just was better than I thought it could be. And I absolutely loved it. To see Bonnie Langford be spun and knocked to the floor, and Kate Stewart, Gemma Redgrave just spun it. It was just the weirdest thing. But I will watch that again and again.
Excellent. And I think that is going to be something. Someone mentioned Rasputin earlier. That's what I remember. I didn't watch that episode, but everyone saw the Rasputin clip that went viral. And that is how I feel of that. We've got another comment I want to bring up. He really enjoyed the giggle, even if he was confused about some things from the General Grievous. And that's kind of it. And the one thing of the giggle I'll say is it reminded me of when John Sims' master first appeared. I can't remember what season it was, but there was the banging of I remember the hand on the table was like a drum thing. And it reminded me of that they were playing into that sort of dynamic. And I like the fact that saying the history of TV was the way it went. And kind of sticking with it. I mean, is it too early to jump to the bi-generation? Because the whole logic of the Doctor playing a game with the Toymaker, and not that it's a twist, but I loved the idea that, okay, you've won one game as a different Doctor. Now I've won one game against this Doctor. So let's go for broke and find out who the next Doctor's going to be, and then just kills him. Well, doesn't kill him clearly, but shoots him with a laser. I quite liked that. Nothing dramatic, no big melancholy build-up, no been shot, staggered to Tardis, wounded. It felt quite real for the actual scenario itself. And for the Doctor to be surrounded by people who have been with him in the past as companions, I thought was a nice touch with it. And then we obviously have the bi-generation. What do people think? And I'm more than willing to jump in first. And this is my limited knowledge. I personally am not a fan. I'm more than happy to give it time. My reasons for not enjoying it are not actually the context of Doctor Who. My issues are actually that's going to be the real life shit that's going to come from it. And the reason I say that is because every single interview David Tennant does for whatever project now, he's going to now repetitively be asked, when are you doing a series with Donna? When are you going to be back as the Doctor again? When are you going to return? And at the same time, I'm very much looking forward to Ncuti's Doctor. He's had a whole series of specials. It then also makes me incredibly nervous that I don't want to do this because this is like a prediction, not a prediction, like a worst case scenario. If there is a ridiculous reaction line to his season, to episodes, to his performances, or anything like that, which I'm not saying there's going to be. I'm just saying with the history of big franchises, doing anything remotely controversial. By the way, love the Toymaker thing that literally the enemy of the episode is basically everyone assuming they're right. They type and they cancel. I fucking loved that. That was such a funny reflection of the 21st century. But sort of sticking with that, my worry is literally if there's a backlash to shoot Gatwa at any point and the studio's upstairs get funny, get nervous, want to pull the plug, David Tennant's like the smash axe on wall. in need of emergency, put Tennant in. And I'm not saying he'd do it. In my head, at least, I think that makes it a little bit harder for Ncuti because the entire world now know that David Tennant is technically still also the Doctor. I know that's just me ridiculously looking way past there even being in our heads, but I personally don't like it, and I actually think it makes it emotionally harder to connect with the Doctor if you now know that there's a chance that they could just keep multiplying. I don't know. It just did something to me where I'm not. I know it's a massive. It's probably. Is it the most? I don't want to even say controversial, but is it one of the ballsiest things Doctor Who's ever done with respect to a regeneration? I mean, I thought doing the War Doctor was pretty risky, but that worked out fantastic. I know it was because Eccleston couldn't come back, but I'm just curious what people's initial impressions are because I know Russell T Davies recorded a video yesterday and was like, "It is going to be controversial," and he is not hidden from that, and he says, "I know it's going to be controversial." And again, I don't mind the idea of it. I don't know if it was the right thing to do. Certainly, at least the fact it's Tennant doing it again as well, rather than any other Doctor. The last two Doctors deserved, not a second chance, but David Tennant, you got like not the most famous Doctor, but like the fan favorite. Is that fair to say? And it's like now we're keeping Tennant around still, and I just think. For me, at least, I don't like it. I really don't like it. And I know I'm not a big Doctor Who fan, so take my response as someone from the general audience. But if you go around telling everyone there's now two Doctors, I think a lot of people are going to be like, why or what? And I think it's just going to be down the middle. And I've got no issue with anyone that says they love it. I've got no issue with anyone that says they don't like it. At least it's something ballsy rather than something repetitive, even though ironically it's technically repetitive.
I mean, there's technically 3 Doctors going around because Joe Martin's Doctor's still out there somewhere. And maybe that ties into the bi-generation. We don't like the bi-regeneration. Who knows? Who knows? But for me personally, I think the logic is flawless. I think it works. And the more I think about it in that way, I'm almost kind of not kind of convincing myself that it's a good decision because I do like the classic kind of regeneration of just getting a brand new face and going on new adventures. But I do also like the fact that this Doctor is immediately very different. And we knew already this was going to be a completely new era of Doctor Who. And the way to separate that is, for the first time since, the revival, have the Doctor be fully at peace with themselves. Like, finally. And that kind of be an element into the kind of bi-regeneration. The fact that, the Doctor has come to terms with everything and the Doctor can now rest and basically post-therapy Doctor, post David Tennant's 14th Doctor, we will end up with Ncuti as the 15th Doctor, and it'll be a completely clean slate. I think it's a smart writing decision because if they didn't clean slate it and just did a normal violent kind of regeneration like we've had previously, then it wouldn't really be a new era of Doctor Who. It would just be a new showrunner or the previous showrunner coming back. This truly defines it as that kind of next step forwards, and I'm okay with it in that sense. Even if I don't completely agree with the way they went about it, I agree with the concept behind it. And it's splitting the fans already. Some people liked it, some people didn't. I was aware of the leaks, and I was expecting the worst, and actually I was surprised when it was actually handled as well as it was. And it means that the Doctor finally gets a happy ending, which I'm very happy for. And it means that we can actually move on from David Tennant. And I truly don't think they wouldn't go back to the David Tennant basket again. They may do a multi-Doctor storyline, but I don't think they will, in the same way, go back to him and have him full time as the Doctor again. I think that ship has gone. I think this is kind of the final farewell to that, and to kind of the entire run since 2005. It's kind of a final goodbye to that, and it's kind of hello with the new. And I'm okay with it. I think I'm okay with it. But, only time will tell, and we'll see how things kind of go, and whether we get more kind of explanation on it in the future, whether we get kind of more ripples and things coming after it.
Yeah, I totally agree with what Tate has said pretty much. Because It's weird. I didn't see any of the leaks or any of that, so I didn't know it was going to happen. So seeing it happen was a bit of a weird experience, because in the moment I was on board with it. I was like, okay, this is different, and I love the fact that we get to see these two doctors on screen working together. And I mean, again, this was kind of backed up after watching the Doctor Who Unleashed episode, because apparently Russell T Davies's reasoning for it was the fact that whenever you do get a regeneration, it's literally straight from one Doctor to the next, and you never have a moment of them on screen together. And this was kind of a reason for that to exist. And I think for that primary sole reason, I love it. But on the other hand, like what George has said, it's the implications of what they possibly could do in the future. It's a weird one. My head's a bit mixed on it at the moment, because I loved it in the moment and seeing them together, and it was great. And I love, like what Tate said, I love what they did with Tennant's Doctor, in the sense that it felt like a sense of finality. He was kind of having the book closed, and it just felt like a nice little wrap up of his specific incarnation of the Doctor. But at the same time, there is a part of me in the back of my head where I'm like, I just feel like they're going to do something with this down the line, and I'm not sure what. And again, it's that thing in the back of my head, knowing that there's two Doctors out there. There's the possibility of Ncuti was bumping it into that Doctor again, and there's all these weird implications that I'm like, okay, it's great now, but what is this going to mean in the future? And I think it's that aspect that it doesn't. I don't think unsettles the word. I think it's just not sitting right in my head. It's weird. I feel very indifferent about it. I love it, but I'm also a bit indifferent at the same time. And also, if they do another multi-Doctor story in the future, that's going to make it so confusing. Depending which version of David Tennant they bring back, it's like, okay, are you going to bring back 14, or are you bringing back 10, or are you bringing back the one that already exists? It's just, this is why I feel a bit indifferent about it. But yeah, similar to what Tate said, I'm just going to go with the flow with whatever comes next, really. Because it can only really get up from here, especially after Chibnall's run, but that's for an entire different discussion.
When I first heard the leaks, I was not excited about it at all. I was like, oh my god, this is just going to be so messy. Like, I don't understand why this decision's been made, and I still don't fully understand it. But the execution of how it happened this episode, I was like, okay, I'm fine with it. And I think it was just as soon as I saw Ncuti and David together and just their interactions, it was like, oh god, this feels really great. And I think in terms of like a passing of the torch, it felt like, kind of the best way they could actually do that from an old Doctor to a new Doctor, which never happens because it is just a transformation, really, when it's a regeneration. And I was very happy that we didn't get a drawn out death, a drawn out speech or anything. It was, I mentioned in the revival video that those kind of things, like the Matt Smith regeneration, was too drawn out for me. Same with David's and with Capaldi's. I just was not kind of here for, we're going to just talk and talk and talk until we just let go. So I'm happy that Tennant was just like, right, I'm ready. Just whatever, let's just do it. And yeah, I feel like in terms of the actual in-universe thing, what happens now, I'm kind of cool about it in the sense that, yes, there's another David Tennant, 14th Doctor is still there, but realistically, in-universe, the 10th Doctor was in 2012 with Rose, whilst Matt Smith, in what at that current time was the Doctor. They very easily could have just run into each other, and that would have been a thing. All the other Doctors in the past and the future could be in 2023 or whatever, perhaps, in this whole, time travel thing, that anything can happen. So I'm more kind of comfortable with the idea that, well, if that happens, fine. Tennant's still out there, but it is the sense of what happens afterwards. What happens with the 14th Doctor? Can he regenerate again? Or is that it? Is it going to be similar to the Meta Crisis Doctor? There's another there's a copy of the Doctor's TARDIS there. There's another, and what happens then? I'm just a bit kind of unsure about how that will go. But in the general sense, as it stands now, I'm fine. I'm cool with it. I love that the Doctor can chill and stuff. But we also know if there is danger out there, if there's anything, the Doctor's going to go and help. So if Tennant is just set in modern 2023 right now, if something comes along, he's not going to ignore it. And he's got a TARDIS right there. He's got everything on him that he needs. So why would he ignore it? So that's the thing where it's like, if they set any modern Who stories in the future, then it's a bit like, well, there's someone right there. Apparently in France, that's where they all are at the end of the episode. Like, oh, they can just nip across the channel and come and help out. So yeah, I'm a bit unsure, but overall, I think the way they executed it was great. And yeah, it was just nice to see two Doctors together. I think that then at least crosses out the, oh, it's an anniversary, wanted a multi-Doctor story. Well, here we go. We did actually technically get a multi-Doctor story.
It's going to be like the Avengers in the Spider-Man game. The Avengers Tower's there. They just don't do anything when the city's under attack every time. It's a really good point, and it's a massive talking point because it is going to be the talking point of Doctor Who moving forward. Aside from that, there's a new Doctor. The fact they filmed a whole season and specials, and I think Tate, they're filming the next Christmas special now, which is amazing for the series that it's got that not the clarity, but it's got the production in place, i.e. the safety, the security moving forward to be able to do that. And that's what makes me excited. And the one thing I kind of hope with it, and maybe this is hypocritical to what I said, but if Russell T Davies has done something like this, I don't think he would just do it and never address it again. That doesn't mean David Tennant turns up in an episode. It doesn't mean he flies in the season finale to save the day. Where my logic sort of goes with it is, I would imagine, I mean, I didn't watch the Jodie Whittaker run. I don't know how much of that first season. I think I saw the first 3 episodes. I don't know how much of the run was them adapting it to the fact that he is now a woman. And I don't know if that ever played into the story mechanics. But I would love that if Ncuti has this, not this moment, because it's not really necessary, but if he has these moments of reflection in the series that he is bi-generated now, and if there could be implications in story from him having that effect. I don't think they need to do it. I don't think they would do it, but it's something I could imagine Russell T Davies might have included or might try to build it, because one thing that I guess we can talk about that is in place is, I guess we could say, I want to talk about the Master/Masters, the Gold Tooth. All I could think of was Ian Wright. I love the idea that the toy maker essentially like has the Masters trapped. I don't want to ask a dumb question like who's picked up the tooth at the end, but I am curious, as you guys who are way more like have the knowledge than me, what do you think the implications of that is, other than a reference to the fact that we're probably going to get a new Master soon?
I don't know. This is one of those.
I don't
things
even
where
know. I just don't know.
Yeah, Doctor Who tells you a mystery, and then you have to figure it out over time. And then when you go back to it, you're like, of course, that makes so much sense. It was so obvious at the time. No, they've set up a few things for the future here. They've set up the big boss from the first episode. They've set up whatever the toy maker refused to play a game with, or whoever that was, which would be very interesting to see kind of what villain is coming that's bigger. Fingers crossed for Omega, please. But like, we don't know. We don't know what's coming in the future, and that is exciting. And Doctor Who works best whether it's building up mysteries and kind of, like you mentioned before, with the previous Master iterations, especially John Sims with the Harold Saxon and the sound of the drums. The build up for that, I think, is one of the best kind of reveals that Doctor Who's ever done, and possibly ever one of the best ever TV reveals, kind of without any prior context to it, without like, a series like Game of Thrones having the books behind it and already kind of having the mystery ruined for some people. But I love it when Doctor Who does that, and they're going to continue to do that in the future, and they're going to continue to do that with this now. I have no idea. People will speculate, but I think there aren't enough clues yet to fully be conclusive. I'm sure that one person will guess it correct, and that person will be heralded as a prophet when it comes around to it. But I mean, you've got to have everyone guessing who it could be. Most likely, it's going to be a previous villain. someone who's hyper intelligent. So I don't expect it to be the Cybermen or the Daleks. I expect it to be kind of something else. Can't be the Master, so probably will be a Time Lord. Past that, you can't really guess where it's going to go from there. There are so many mysteries still left unsolved from Whittaker's era. I mean, I already mentioned Jo Martin's Doctor, where she's going to come into it. But, you know, I'm excited for the future. I'm excited for how they go about things. We had the trailer out for the Church on Ruby Road, which has got the Goblin King and goblins singing and dancing, being the villains of the episodes. That's going to be fantastic. But no, I'm really excited to kind of see the direction they take the story in, and, you know, all the mysteries that they'll drop. I'm sure that people will come back through these episodes over the next few weeks, but maybe it's already been revealed, and I guess we'll just have to dig deeper.
Yeah, I have no idea. I'm just going to be brutally honest. I have no idea. I mean, it's a female hand at the end, but that's about all we got to go off of. Yeah, I've seen some people on Twitter saying it could be Missy, but then I think people are forgetting that, like, she is just another version of the Master, so that wouldn't make sense. So, I mean, I genuinely don't know. I'm always intrigued when I've never seen Classic Who. I've been with New Who since 2005, so I need to delve into Classic Who, but that's a whole different thing in itself. But I do love it when they translate an old villain into New Who, and the Master is always one that I feel like with the current run, they've nailed it pretty much every time, whether it's John Sim or Michelle Gomez as Missy, or even Sacha Dhawan's Master is one that grew on me over time. And by the time he had the power of the Doctor last year, I was like fully on board with him as the Master. So yeah, I don't really know what they're going to do with it. To be brutally honest, I've no clue, but I'm excited to see what they do with it. And like Tate said, that they've set up all these things in the previous 2 episodes that, again, I like the fact that these 3 specials weren't just bothered about like celebrating 60 years and telling their own stories. It was also just planting the seeds for the stuff in the future as well, in a way that wasn't necessarily like, oh, we're going to tease it. It genuinely felt natural when these things happened, like the Meep saying about the boss, or the moments that were referenced in this episode. It genuinely felt natural, like it was perfectly slotted in. And the fact that it was a tease for something we haven't seen yet was just kind of a bonus. And yeah, I'm just looking forward. I'm just happy that we've got Russell T Davies back at the helm. And I'm just excited to see what the hell he's going to do, because I have no idea, but I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with the tooth, I thought it was really funny anyway, and I did laugh when it was picked up, because I was like, because it's such an obvious reference to the Last of the Time Lords, where the Master's ring was picked up by a woman with red nail polish. You know, it was just so like, okay, it's such an obvious like throwback. It was just really funny. But I remember at that time when that happened, there was so much speculation about who picked up the ring, and it turned out to just be a random woman who was helping to bring him back. But at the time, there was like, is it the Rani? Is it an old companion? Is it like who's done this? So I feel like it could be the same here. We know, you know, Jinx Monsoon's going to be in Ncuti's season, so it could be her character. But again, we have no idea. I mean, I was talking to someone after the episode about, you know, about who the Master could be, and I would be very happy if it was a previous incarnation of the Master who came back out of this. You know, I think Sacha did a great job. I would love to see him back. Missy, of course. I mean, we saw John Sim and Michelle Gomez together, and that was fantastic. It was great to get John Sim back as a Master with someone else. So I think that would be wonderful. We know that Indira Varma is going to be in the new series as well. If she became the Master, I would be very, very happy if that happened, because I love her. But you know, again, it could be anything, and I think that's the exciting thing. But the fact that we know that there's probably a plan down the line to, you know, bring the Master in somehow, whether it's through the person that picks up the tooth, or if that's just going to be the tease and then the character will just come back. We don't know. But no, I like that that's kind of open to interpretation, because you can never really get rid of the Master. They're too much part of the DNA of Doctor Who at this point.
Yeah, that's fair, and it is going to be interesting. And if you're going off the past seasons of Russell T Davies, the fact that he always is building up to something, there's always something in the background. I've seen some weird criticism on Twitter in the last couple of weeks about Russell T Davies that, looking back, everything's so obvious. Looking back, this is that. He's not that good, is it? Because we all worked that if we'd have been this age. And I've seen a lot of nonsense with that. But I think I said that on one of the videos. I can't remember which one, Tate, but I did say that, in the social media 2023 lens, something like Bad Wolf is going to get found out on the spot. That is only because people screenshot every single frame and every single thing ever made now. And that just wasn't possible. Well, it probably was possible in 2005. Just I don't think anyone was A, that's sad, or B, didn't have the social media persona to spread it. I'm sure there are forums somewhere where they had all those details. But kind of thing where we were talking moving forward. I mean, we spoke about the Master. We spoke about a couple of other things. I don't know, we're rounding out this video. I know we've been going just under an hour, but this is off the cuff. What do you all want to see from Doctor Who moving forward? And like I said, I'm like a newcomer to it. I'm best off putting it that way. I watched it a bit when I was younger, but this will be the first time I'd say I'm invested in following a season of Doctor Who and guarantee that I will watch the season since literally like David Tennant era, like season 3, 4 type thing. I'm curious just what you're looking forward to, what you think could happen. Not speculating, but what do you think the key is going to be? And looking at like a new perspective. Disney's investment in Doctor Who, the fact we're getting new studios in Cardiff, the fact that the production looks superb today. I must add, I know obviously it was on a skyscraper and it looked like the Avengers Tower, but you can see that budget. The practical sets, the toy maker sequences all looked amazing, and it wouldn't look like that normally or 5 years ago. What are you all just sort of hoping to see? That's like a nice, not because that could be a massive discussion saying, right, but Tate, does that make any sense?
Yeah, so we heard from Russell T Davies in interviews this week that Doctor Who will be dipping its toes a bit more into the fantasy elements of sci-fi, which is exciting because, Doctor Who has always had kind of groundings in fantasy and they've always delved into those different things. And I guess with the next episode being about goblins, that's going to kind of make it very obvious that that's the direction the show's going to be going in. From what we've seen from Ncuti so far, he seems like a very grounded Doctor who's kind of fully comfortable with himself and, kind of wants to open his arms and hug the universe. And I feel like I do want to see that element of, him going forwards. I do also want to see some darker moments. And maybe, we got the explanation in this episode of, companions being killed, but the Doctor giving an explanation. Well, actually, they did survive in this kind of situation, or they survived through this means, or it wasn't a complete death. I'm going to go, this may sound really odd, but I will at some stage want to see a character die again and be dead and be permanently dead and not saved, and the Doctor have to deal with that fallout because it's been a long time. Hasn't happened in New Who yet, hasn't happened in the revival era where a companion's just been outright killed. And they kind of explain that in the episode today. So I wouldn't mind seeing that, but knowing the direction the show's going in, I just want it to be fun and I want the writing to be good. And past that, I will be happy. I'll be very happy if that is the case.
I'm pretty much going to second what you just said. I just want the writing to be good again. Chibnall's era wasn't awful. There were just points where it was just like, no, why are you doing this? But I think going forward, it's weird. I don't want a repeat of what Russell T Davies did before. We've already had that. I just want him to kind of I want him to kind of do what he's done with these 3 specials, give us a bit of something new, give us a bit of what we already know and like. And if he can find a way to blend that in his next 2 seasons, at least that's, what we've got in terms of what's been filmed with Ncuti Gatwa so far. As long as we have that, I will be happy. And again, as long as the writing's good, We know that it's going to look good because of the money behind it, and these 3 specials have kind of proven that. But yeah, as long as the writing's solid and we get like a nice blend of what we've come to know and love, but also something slightly different, and things that are not going too far out there, but just kind of giving us stuff we might not necessarily expect to see in Doctor Who. I think that's really what I'm looking forward to the most. And it's also, again, like we said earlier, that uncertainty. I genuinely don't know what we're going to get in the next couple seasons, and I like that. There was something about like the previous few seasons where, as the seasons were playing out, you could kind of have an idea of where they were going, or if it did throw in a curveball, it was something that kind of dislodged the whole tone of what was going on. Whereas this is like, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm genuinely on board with it. And again, it goes back to just if the writing's solid all the way through and it can keep me gripped and on board with these characters that I've loved for years, then I'm happy with it. I'm just going to let Russell do whatever the hell he wants.
I just want fun, really. I want the show to have fun. I want the characters to have fun. I want to have fun watching it. I want obviously the writing to be good, and I want the ideas to be kind of, a bit out there. At the same time, I think, it's a long show. There's things that you should always kind of do, and whether that's, having stories that are, based on the Siege, or you have some stories with Unit in modern day, or you go to the far future, to the past, just making sure that every kind of touch point is hit in one way or another. There's lots of people who have so many different perspectives on what they think a good Doctor Who story is, or a good setting for a Doctor Who story is. So, and for me, the joy of Doctor Who is how vastly different each and every story can be from one to the next. And so I just hope that there's diversity in kind of how a story is told, rather than, one of my criticisms of New Who was that, okay, we're going in the past and, it's Victorian Britain again. That's fantastic. And that would frustrate me with all of the areas that you could go to. I'm like, why is that just the only time? But so just variety there, and just seeing what you can do in the space of 1 or 2 episodes, rather than having an arc that kind of overshadows the individual stories and these individual journeys and travels that the Doctor is going on. With Tate, what you were saying about the companion thing is interesting. I guess from my perspective, I would like more if companions had agency in when they stayed and when they went. I feel like a lot of the time in New Who, it's mostly out of control of the companion. And I would like more where it's like, I want to go back home, or I want to stay in this setting, or I want to stay on this planet because of X, Y, and Z, whatever reason that may be. I would like more of that agency from the companion, rather than, they're traveling with the Doctor, so they've got a death wish or something. At the same time, they mentioned Adric tonight, which is clearly like one of the Doctor's like most kind of disappointing moments, in the fact that he couldn't save his companion. And I think there's definitely room for a point where there is something like Adric, where once Adric's gone, he didn't come back. That was it. Apart from like Big Finish, but that's a whole other thing. But the fact that in show there's always been a way out for a companion. If they've died, it's not final. And I think in some cases it kind of has to be. So if you are going to go down that route, then really stick to it. Otherwise, I think Martha's departure is one of my favorites from New Who, just because she had that agency to say, I'm done here, thank you, but I'm going to go now. And I wish there was a bit more of that. But hopefully with Ruby, she'll stay for a while. I'm really looking forward to her relationship with the Doctor and their stories. And it looks like as a duo, they're going to have great fun together.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And I said the fact again, we're going to get the introduction to the new companion on the next episode. Not here's a big guest ready for us to cast someone for the next series. It's happening now. And again, that's the credit for them, I think, developing this properly, because they've got the security to be able to develop it like other years. I feel like we've covered everything we needed to. Have I missed anything obvious? Tate, I'm jumping to you.
I mean, the only thing that I would kind of get from everyone is what their favorite moment of the episode is. Because as much as I'd like to say Spice Up My Life is my favorite moment in the episode, it actually wasn't. My favorite moment from the episode was the marionette show that the toy maker puts on for the Doctor, talking through his past companions and everything like that. I thought that scene was very well acted from everyone involved, and even seeing the behind the scenes of it with the kind of marionette work they did on the episode, it's really fascinating. They're able to get that kind of practical stuff, whereas, you know, so some things they obviously CG'd in the episode, but a lot of it was practical, and I was really impressed by that.
Yeah, I think. Oh God, I mean, Spice Up Your Life does immediately stick out in my head as like. I love those moments in Doctor Who where it can just have fun with itself and just not take itself that seriously, and that moment was just that in a nutshell. But piggybacking off of yours, Tate, I think my favourite moment was pretty much from the moment the Doctor and Donna go into the toy shop. That whole bit where they're in a like never-ending corridor going into the marionette puppet, and then Donna beating the living crap out of the out of the other dolls. Just the smacking the head of one of them against the wall just had me in tears laughing. It was bloody brilliant. Just that whole sequence up all the way until the toy maker is kind of taunting the Doctor about, like you said, previous companions. Like that whole trippy reality bending sequence just had me gripped to the TV, because I'm like, this is the kind of stuff, if Doctor Who's going to go for it and do something that's a bit out there, this is the kind of stuff I want to see. And again, it kind of, similar to the Spice Up Your Life bit, it showcases what the toy maker is capable of in like a really concise nutshell, and it was I was just riveted by that whole bit.
Yeah, Spice Up Your Life probably is like my favorite thing. Although, I mean, I will give a shout out to kind of the final scene with the Doctor and Donna and the Temple Nobles. I think that was a really nice scene to kind of end that on. To have them get Mel over, I think, was super cute. You know, they acknowledged that she was an orphan, and you know, she came back to Earth after her travels and had no one. So it was nice that, you know, it's kind of bringing people together, kind of similar to what they did at the end of The Power of the Doctor with kind of having the companions together. It's nice to just know that even afterwards, as we're about to follow on with the Doctor, that, you know, these characters that we love and, you know, hold dear are moving on and, you know, enjoying life. So that was a really sweet time for me. And I think I probably would have got more emotional at that had we not then just shifted to Ncuti being like, okay, we're going to get ready, which is probably a good thing, actually, to do that and to kind of pump you up and not leave you on a real emotional beat.
That's fair. I'm with Tate. I love the show. I forgot what the words was he was saying, but when it dropped to the American accent, every time it was like the Doctor justifying why someone met their unfortunate end. I just love the editing with that. I love the performance. And again, just every scene with Neil Patrick Harris, he was just not born to be in Doctor Who. I don't want to talk about Harold and Kumar. It's like, he's such an underrated actor that
Harold and Kumar.
Because he played Barney, he has the reputation of being Barney Stinson. We know he's theatrical. We know he's done stage work. We know he's done dramas. He's done comedies. This just felt like the role that could encapsulate. If someone said to you, what is Neil Patrick Harris like as an actor, as a performer? I would put this episode on. And it showed all of his range, what he's been able to do. I wouldn't go for Gone Girl. Probably the best thing he's been in. But that's not really who Neil Patrick Harris is when you think of him as a performer. And I just think it was quite comfortable. The ridiculous accent, I just can't get over it. It was so amazing because of how ridiculous. And that's what Doctor Who's always had. Yes, people take it seriously. Yes, we're here talking about it longer than the episode's gone on. But Doctor Who has always had a variety. And one thing I know that the Doctor Who fandom has always took on board is, I don't want to call it the stupidity of it, but the silliness of Doctor Who, the fun, the adventure with it. And I think we're in this, and I think we're in this age now where so many shows are being taken so seriously. Every second is a reading and means something to somebody, and they're trying to decipher something from someone. And that's not the approach of what this was today. And I actually think it's a very fair reflection, at least in my time, understanding and trying to figure out Doctor Who as a series, as an entity, as, you know, a historical guidance on like British culture and TV. it was just perfect, and I loved that little show. I think someone joked about it on Twitter a few months ago that like there was a post that had gone viral recently. There's someone saying like, "What if the toy maker did a show, but it's of all the old Doctors?" And people thought that would be the way to cameo all the old Doctors. But the fact you then get like the fate of all the companions that didn't have a nice ending. But yeah, it just makes me excited. And that scene in particular, yeah, I thought was just phenomenal. And the catch scene was very weird, very funny, but weird. And yeah,
the catch thing I couldn't really get on board with. That's one element of it where it was a bit like, okay, this is.
Imagine they'd done rock paper scissors. I know that's how apparently that Squid Game Netflix show finished, and then it came out they didn't actually pay the winner, which is hilarious. But
okay.
Yeah, like. The fact it was a game of catch, I thought he was going to like jump down and go after it and die, but obviously that wasn't the case. But yeah, sorry, just the last. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how to outro these things or too, but anything else anyone wants to bring up before we round out?
I think the only thing I will say is that now that you mentioned it, if they'd ended the game of catch and then the toy maker just jumps off the edge trying to catch it, that would have been an interesting way to end the episode. But no, I don't have any constructive criticism to add to that.
I genuinely thought the scene would end with them throwing the ball into the box and him having to go back into his realm to get it and then them locking him inside his realm. I thought that would be the solution, but him just missing an easy catch in the outfield, fly ball, left center, and it's gone is, that's fine.
Right. Well, I think this is going to do it for this special. As I said, I know Tate's in Austria. Tate, you're out there till April? So anyone that's watching will know Tate will be out there. We are heading into Oscar season. We do have more Doctor Who. Maybe there'll be other Doctor Who videos when the series. Is there a date for the series? Is it rumored for spring?
It's rumored for spring/summer.
I remember it used to be like May, didn't it? It used to be like May into like June, July time when we were younger. I wonder if they'll maybe target something like that. So there will be more Doctor Who on the channel moving forward. We've got the lovely logo in the corner. We've got backgrounds. We've had some guests. Sam, Aaron, thank you both so much for coming on. Aaron at the Movies, the YouTube channel. Sam, you're always with us. Your Twitter is at Sama_1995 because
very
I'm
good,
so used
George.
to it. I know. I'm so used to remembering that.
I've got him trained now.
But it's always good to do these discussions. And I said, I'm not the biggest Doctor Who, not fan, but like I don't have the knowledge, I don't have the expertise, I don't follow the productions like cycles that others do. So it's nice to talk about something out of my comfort zone, as bad as I am at talking about something out of my comfort zone compared to, say, Star Wars, which we hope is returning soon. Unfortunately, it won't be Gatwa first, it'll be something else. But we do a lot of stuff on this channel other than film. But we are, of course, a film channel. I mentioned we're heading into Oscar season. Godzilla -1 releases in the UK this Friday. It's already out in America, which is disgraceful. We've had to wait 2 weeks. They're doing an early screening this Monday. There's going to be a few early screenings in the UK for a lot of the Oscar films. Priscilla's going to be screened on the 20th of December at Cineworlds. The Holdovers, that Christmas film, Boxing Day. Make it make sense, someone, please. There's a few others. There's a lot of screenings. There'll be more reviews. We're going to be Golden Globes are on Monday, the nominations. Then we're going to head into the season. We've got Emmys as well. It's going to be a bit different this year. There's a lot happening. We're working in the background. We've got a few other things we're going to start in the new year. So it might be a quieter month this month, but it's been nice to do these Doctor Who videos. And I do hope that everybody at home has enjoyed it. So as with earlier, please do comment your thoughts on Doctor Who. What would you like to see from Doctor Who as for these discussions? I know we've got it nailed with Star Wars, how we approach it, but maybe someone at home is curious about what we want to talk about with Doctor Who. Let us know. We always take feedback on board when it comes in. And of course, do hit the subscribe if you like this video. If you like the other Doctor Who specials, check out the Revival discussion that Sam, Tate, and Dan were on. I checked that out. Even though I'd only seen less than half the episodes, I'd still listened to that, which was great. So people, please do that. And like I said, there could be other Doctor Who stuff. If they're announced, they go on our social media. Linktree.com/cinemasavvy, Redbubble to pick up some merch as well. That's it for today. Again, thank you both for jumping on as guests. Thank you, Tate, for joining us from Austria. I know you didn't want to miss this one. And I know the timing didn't work out as well as we hoped with the moving. But to everybody at home, thank you all for watching. Take care, and we'll see you then.